Thanks for staying with us. Now, marketing is telling the world you're a rock star. Content marketing is showing the world you're one. Businesses, in my opinion, have moved from just plain marketing to generating contents that are a lot engaging, which can ultimately generate a sale. Africa holds a lot of growth opportunities for companies, both local and multinational, looking to expand its global presence in an increasingly competitive world. African markets are becoming increasingly prioritized in the marketing strategy of top global organizations. Nigeria, the most populous African country with about 200 million inhabitants, is usually an important market for businesses expanding in Africa. As the continent's largest economy with a GDP of about $376 billion, Nigeria holds significant reward for multinational firms looking to tap into its large consumer base. For your business to be successful in Nigeria, one of the most important growth potential in the next decade is you need to apply a realistic marketing strategy that is in line with yearly growth goals, so both short and long term. So how prepared are you as a business person, or an individual? Because trust me, business now is in every shape or form. All right, so let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. So positioning. I want to quickly hear Norma and Isi's thought on strategies for 2022, reviews, what you think, like in your sector, what you think, how do you think marketing has changed in your sector, and what you plan, what you think should be happening in 2022. Without talking too much, because we have experts here. Let us not expose ourselves that we do not know.
Well, in the education sector, it's all about repositioning yourself and rebranding yourself and getting more knowledge in whatever field or interests you have currently. So for me, it's all about repositioning yourself and getting more educated for you to be able to, compete with the competitors.
Hallelujah. She sounded like your pastor. Compete with the competitors. Norma, how about you?
Well, in the times that we're in, you have to be relevant. You have to upscale yourself and what you know. Yes. You can't, they say you don't use 18th century tools to deal with 21st century problems, right? So there are tools now that have found themselves obsolete, really. It's I found myself in the COVID period having virtual sessions more often than not in my field, of course, grooming, beauty, and all of that. And I found out that more people, and it was a more global experience because people from all over could be a part of it without necessarily being in the area where I was situated at the time. So basically that informed me that things can no longer be the way they used to be. And I have to continue to enlighten myself and open up my mind to all the opportunities that are available now, because it's a very competitive world right now. And for small businesses, it's even more competitive because when you're competing with bigger businesses, then you have a bigger boat to chew.
And it just seems like even the big businesses now, they want to do everything. So
right.
you are not,
it makes it even
really
more challenging
about your marketing plan. Yeah, it might be tough. So let me bring in Emmanuel Emordi, right? Started out his career as a freelancer, making art soundtrack for brands like Virgin Atlantic, British Airways, and sending them out to ad agency at the age of 16. After several years between tertiary education, working across different sectors and working on traditional marketing, advertising projects, he delved into digital marketing in 2010. Over the years, he has worked on both global and local digital and traditional marketing projects with agencies and businesses such as Wikipedia, Access Bank, Flour Mills of Nigeria, and the Lagos State government, to mention a few. In 2019, he delved into freelance work to strengthen his interest in growth marketing and has since then carried out some projects with notable startups in Nigeria. And he's joined us live in studio. Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for joining us tonight.
It's my pleasure.
To think that you're very young and yet you have achieved so much is enviable. But a job well done. I remember when you said 16, I remembered, where was I? At 18, I was selling Uncle Ben's rice at, what's it called? The trade fair. You know, so at 16, being able to connect with big global businesses, I mean, that is brilliant.
Applaudable.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's, I mean, for you at age 18, selling Uncle Ben's, that's entrepreneurial.
Yes.
That's pretty early.
But somebody
Also,
did not catch the vision well. You know, she didn't catch the vision well. You know,
The digital world had not.
It has not. Imagine if you, by now you'd have been importer, exporter, pure conglomerate.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Emmanuel. So, I mean, first of all, let's look at 2021.
Okay.
I mean, picking it back from 2020, of course, we saw how COVID-19 came and changed the world as we know it today. And a lot, I've seen so many innovations when it comes to marketing these days, you know, unlike before. You can't just say, oh, I'm putting an ad. It has to be tied to a goal and all of that. So maybe let's review the business world, right? In terms of marketing strategies. What has 2021 been like so far from day one till date?
Thank you very much for that question. So I think when we want to talk about businesses and marketing, it's important to put into consideration or to consider that businesses don't just exist in isolation. They exist in an economy, right? So the first thing I like to address in this conversation is the events economically and socially, I mean, in this country that have impacted businesses. Like I say, obviously, that have impacted businesses and people.
Yeah.
Right. Before, then that would help us see the position. I mean, how far we've come, and where most businesses can put, how businesses can size out their current position and all of that. So I think I'd like to start this out by listing out some of the events. I had to quickly note that, it's not in any particular order, but think about things like you mentioned. We're just coming out from 2020, the pandemic. That still has its effects.
Yeah.
The world has recovered incredibly well, but yes, there's definitely a but to that. But the effects, it has changed the world forever. The way I like to see it, it has accelerated change. Things we thought were going to be like 5 years from now, we're already doing them. Yeah, so that there's that, and there's the fact that Forex hit an all-time high this year. That's big. So when we talk about businesses and marketing, and we have to look at these kind of indicators.
Indicators,
pretty important. Another is the state of insecurity. It has had a massive impact on the economy. Lots of states, economy grinding to a halt. Agriculture has been massively impacted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Farmers can't go to their farm because of insecurity.
And that's affecting food supply. That in itself is affecting, I mean, we can't even begin to look at the scale of impact on the average business. We also look at things like the rise and fall and rise again of crypto and alternative
Currency.
Yeah, alternative, I like to just say alternative investment vehicles. Okay. Because cash has flowed in that direction massively this year.
Yeah.
Last year, we saw a spike. We saw the buzz about crypto for the highest ever. But this year, way more is happening in that field, along with other alternative investment vehicles. Another is the changing face of the world of work. Yeah, that is big. It has impacted businesses the world over. Not to sound like an economist.
Who would have thought work from home would now be a thing? Remotely, and so businesses are thinking, buildings, structures, all those things are no longer, because all that structures,
offices,
they are now, all those walls are down. So it's now boiling down to the work that you're actually doing, and you can do that work remotely from anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, we saw Trevor Noah and many other people doing what we have to do in the studio, right in their houses.
American Idol was live virtually all through.
Exactly. So those are things we didn't anticipate, but they're here to stay. So let me just quickly run through these ones. We have a migration. That's a big topic. Lots of the brain drain. It's a big issue that's impacted businesses today. We also have inflation. Inflation is a big one. Another is food inflation. I mean, it's a subtopic, but it's a big, because that has hit even the man on the street. Next is changes in policies, the CAC and all of that. Those are good. Those are big points. But when we mention that, when we list these things out, we look at the way it's affected the average person. It gives us a sense of the good sides to these things and the adverse effects of these things on the average businesses.
Yeah.
Then we can talk marketing. I feel that gives us like a perspective on how to view the topic.
So it's actually interesting listing all of these things because, because usually we have very little time. That's why we try to go straight into the conversation.
Right.
But you see, what you've listed is the actual reason why a lot of businesses had to sit down to look into their marketing strategies to say that, if we continue like this, we'll become obsolete.
Exactly.
You understand? So maybe you should walk us through. Maybe pick some sectors. I don't know which sectors you're going to pick now.
Okay.
How has all of these factors, how has it impacted the kinds of marketing that we're seeing today? You know, because now I see that a lot of people, for instance, a lot of people, this is what you would not have seen 2-3 years ago, big companies, banks and all of that, would rather pay an influencer, for instance, let's focus it on my own sector, than for them to put an ad on a TV, they would rather pay a Taoma or Mr. Macaroni or Brother Shaggy. Why? Because a lot of people, during especially the lockdown, when the lockdown started, people were bored at home. So TikTok became a big thing. So social media became a big thing. Data was being consumed per minute per second.
Content
and everybody decided, you know what, that's where the eyeballs are. So a lot of top companies that you would never have seen them, engaging the services of like influencers, one-on-one people, you would see those people going to say, some of these comedians creating skits around their brands.
Yes.
That for me, it woke something up inside of me. Even as I'm speaking to you, a big company reached out to me. They're a retail company, and said, please, they want me to be part of their brand, promoters or whatever. This is something that would never have happened before. Do you understand? Because now they're looking for every avenue to just push their content out. So that's for the media sector. I don't know, maybe other sectors that you want to, throw lights on.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, that was a very nice way to put it around for media. However, I think a way to look at it. Let me use let me just use FMCG.
Okay.
Yeah. For example, fast-moving consumer goods. These are daily products. Lots of years ago, a lot of their spend used to go, like you rightly said, into traditional marketing. But today, like you said, the eyeballs are on digital, and so a lot of activities to ensure that they stay relevant has moved to digital as well.
Yes.
Lots of their road shows, lots of their activations are now digital. A lot of their spend has moved in the area of digital, and they engage a lot of, let's say, a lot of the retail partners, ShopRite and the rest of them.
Yeah.
We have the Jumia and the rest of them. They now have more digital presence and like in-person delivery and all of that. That has really seen a lot of growth over the past year, 2 years. And we also see a lot of logistic companies also complementing this, because e-commerce logistics. When we look at these changes, marketing basically, in this case, what I say, in this case now is, let's say, a lot of spend, a lot of strategy has moved. The attention or the priority of the spending power, the spending priorities now have moved a lot like it used to, than it used to before. Yeah, so besides FMCG, I would say things, a sector like real estate. Today you're seeing more real estate ads than you have seen
before.
I mean, digital, not just traditional. Traditional, real estate used to be massively traditional. But now you're seeing a lot more digital marketing in real estate. And the reason is because, like you rightly said, that's where the eyeballs are.
Yes.
Yeah, so if a real estate company wants to market themselves today, they're thinking, should I really put myself on a magazine? Is that the only thing I should do? The marketing mix, think of your marketing mix, exactly. Your marketing mix is becoming more diluted in favor of digital today. Yeah, so while that's an obvious fact, the reason is people will always tell you things like, oh, you can't sell a house online. Like nobody will put their credit card online. So, but at the same time, you have to get people to know about your offer. You have to get people to appreciate the value of your offer online. And the tactics we've seen now is that if a lot of these real estate businesses have built an agent network, right? This agent network now, they're the ones who you see them running lots of ads. You see them doing in-person marketing. You see them building communities around themselves, right?
Also,
Yeah,
you know what? Let's just go for a very short break.
Okay.
We'll continue the conversation when we come back. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Now, if you just tuned in, we're having an amazing chat with Emmanuel as we review how marketing businesses have fared in 2021 and what to look out for in 2022. Please, let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. So, who is going to go? EC, you were going to have. You wanted to ask a question.
Yes,
before
I wanted to ask a question in respect of the education sector. Okay, we all know that during the lockdown, a lot of schools decided to, educate the children and teach the kids via virtual system. Now, do you think this is the new trend for 2022? Because even at now, as I speak with you, we still have challenges with the COVID and they're still trying to bounce back to how things have always been. But they're still facing that challenge as it is, because some parents are not sending their children back to school and they have the challenge of, safety. They're conscious of safety, basically. So what do you think will be the new norm for education in 2022?
That's a very important question, because that's one industry that saw, a massive one.
Massive hit.
A massive one, yeah. So for education, I think the answer is pretty obvious now. It's not going to be the same again.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be the same again. We saw virtual classrooms, tools that have always been there, but we just didn't know. Began to get exploited. Zoom, Google Classroom, and all of that. And we then saw other forms of education also, even new forms of education, besides just the Montessori or the ones you're very familiar with. We're seeing very unconventional classrooms. We're seeing learning priorities of parents have changed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, now parents don't want to just have their children like a majority.
Education.
Yeah, not just only classroom education. They want them to additional, new skills, language skills, and other skills.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're seeing. Let me give you a good example to show you that this is not going to remain the same. So there's a spike in number of Nigerian teachers teaching foreign students Nigerian languages. That I saw that as in person. I've seen a lot of teachers today teaching virtually. They just have classes with foreign students or Nigerian students abroad, Nigerian languages. So you see, one of the reasons we know it's not going to come back to what it was before is because the educational priorities of parents and even the average, even you sitting here, you know how many courses you've taken within last year and now that you didn't do in 2019 into 2020.
Absolutely.
So I feel like you
didn't even consider, yeah. So I feel like that is a strong enough indicator that it's never going to go back to what it was. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does.
Name my finger.
So he's talking and I'm thinking small businesses,
right?
How do they now compete with all of this review and positioning? How do small businesses begin to play in this bigger space with the bigger businesses? How do they position themselves in order to key into some of these digital tools or marketing opportunities in the future?
That's a lovely question, and I think the answer is already out here.
Okay.
Small businesses. Let me give you. I think the first point I can make to hit this on the head is that the world is now quote unquote flat. Yeah. So if a lot more local businesses in Nigeria are doing business with
global transactions.
Yes, they're doing business with other businesses in other countries. They have international clients. They're doing global transactions now. And I feel if we run a comparison with what it was in 2019, 2020, it's no way. It's going to be just a very massive difference. So small businesses today can play or have already begun to play and position themselves in a much bigger world than they used to exist in. Yeah, so small businesses today can take a good look at the platforms that gives them access to a broader market. That's the first thing. Because like a small fish in a small tank, right, you can't grow bigger than that, right? Yeah. You have to be moved into a bigger playing field if you need to grow big. Yeah, so if, good example, a tailor. Let me just use this to see if I can answer your question better. A tailor friend of mine, before the pandemic, focused on the Nigerian market. He had all his 100% Nigerian clients, Lagos, different places. He does really good work. Today, fast forward about a year now, 70% of his clientele
are international.
Abroad. Oh. Why? Nigerians abroad still want
clothes done here,
and they're paying way more than the local clients. So that's kind of like an understanding, or that kind of gives you a picture of how small businesses should see the world. You can position in a world that you don't have a sense of. Let me put it that way. So the first thing in positioning, I feel, is to look at the playing field. And the great news with the disruption that has come from COVID-19 is that the world is bigger.
You know, one would think that because one would think that because the world is now no walls, the world is flat and everything, it makes a small business smaller. But no, if you look at it in reality, it gives you the same opportunity it will give you any visibility.
Exactly.
And that's why you would see. That's why if you're smart enough to actually look at even the big businesses, they're trying so hard to do what you have been doing in your own little way. So just to also get that share of the business. So if we want to look at positioning for 2022, where would be a good place to start for everyone? And I'll say this with all sense of how do I explain it now? Because it's not enough for you to just have a business. You also you must understand why your business would sell and why people need it. So where would be a good place? Are we looking at products? Are we looking at services? Are we looking at what exactly should we be looking at in terms of what we want to push out? Are we looking at pushing out a message or a product or something that would keep us constantly at the front burner of the minds of our customers to say, okay, this is why I want to do business with this particular person?
Right. That's a very, very good question. This conversation, I feel, is, I mean, it can go on for hours. It can go on for hours. It's really a struggle trying to, crunch things down. Okay, so but from your question, what would be the what are the key things that businesses should consider putting forward?
Yes.
Is that's question?
It,
Good. Okay, so I feel that depends on the business. Number one, the size of the business. I feel that depends also on the stage of growth of the business. If you're a business if you're a person who just has an idea you want to start out, you don't have the same needs as a person who has been in operation for 2-3 years and wants to scale. Yeah, so I feel your need depends on your phase of growth, and it depends on your size as of right now. Yeah, so for example, if you're a small business and you've been in existence for a year or two, you have good clientele here, and your need is to scale, you just want more revenue, then we begin to look at options around that. So marketing always begins with your goal. What do you want to achieve? And then we can say, you can then begin to look at the different mix of audience, your offer, your messaging, all of those different things begin. But the goal is really where it begins. Marketing is not just done for any other reason other than to achieve core business goals. So I feel like it's a very big question. I love that question so much. But I feel like it's not something I can say, oh, you just pick a message, or you just pick an audience only. I say it depends on what level of growth you are at.
So the best
and the goal
you would advise is probably let that kind of business sit with a professional to map out, you know, what your objectives are. Then you can now pick from that objective, now develop a strategy for the business.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right.
Okay, so if I may step in, what about the financial sector?
Right.
We have different digital platforms currently running, and people are, you know, trying to buy into using them to, you know, sell their goods and services.
Yeah.
How well do you think we should apply or use these digital services to pay up or whatever goods or whatever item we buy in 2022? How will this impact businesses, and how will this impact the economy?
Okay, that's another good question. For I'm really loving these questions. For payments, your question is more about the financial services available to creators and small businesses.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you've heard of the term the creator economy, or the gig economy, or something related to that. So I feel like there's a lot of tools, there are lots of resources available to businesses, like your question about small businesses and how they can position. There are lots of tools and lots of resources available to businesses, and I feel you should exploit as many of them as possible. Again, it can be confusing when you focus on the tools, but if your goal is clear, then you know you're trying the tool, you know if it works for your goal.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to advertise or mention brands,
Names.
but I'm sure in your minds right now there are some particular brands.
I was even going to add to Izzy's question about finance, because fintech is the thing now. Me, I'm waiting for you to give me, because as it is now, somebody has told me that we should just gather money and set up a fintech company. So because that is the future. You know, and if you look at it, they've been giving the traditional banks a run for their money. They've been, you know, putting heat. And I mean, just last week, CBN license gave license to telcos. So problem don't they? As in, like, so I mean, I'm just saying that because financial services, fintech, I mean, we're seeing that there's going to be a lot of boom. It's going to get bigger and better. I mean, look at what you said about a business that is now 70% diasporan clientele. How do you think the payments go through? They would definitely use the services of some of all these fintech companies. So that's the kind of strategy we want. Because I want to become a billionaire in 2022, you know. So what do you think would happen to fintech, that space?
I think there's no stopping it. I don't see any country that wants to do well stopping fintech. And if you try to stop fintech, you will only keep trying, because it's a change that's here to stay. It's where big banks are going. They're even trying to play bigger when it comes to financial technology. It's just the future. There's no stopping fintech.
Absolutely.
There's really no stopping fintech.
Wow. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to double back to what we discussed earlier. I mean, when you talked about the indicators, things that the reality that we found ourselves today, migration, food inflation, pandemic, the forex, and all of that, insecurity. Now, I'm wondering, with all of this staring us in the face, how can small businesses rise above? What are certain strategies they can use to currently we have real life situations, challenges where people cannot afford to eat, or there's the prices of food, fuel, gases, things like that are on the rise, and they're still expected to handle their businesses. How can they still thrive amidst all of these challenges that they're being faced with?
It's tough on the Nigerian business person. We're doing business in an
difficult times,
impossible environment. Yeah, I would use that term, an impossible environment. A lot of things are against the small business, but and it's not meant to be that way. It's not meant to be that way. That's not what entrepreneurship was established for. You know, but the best ways to So your question is, how do small businesses navigate these challenges to grow?
Exactly.
I feel, or I think it's best that we begin with the business person, because the way I like to think about it, the business person is a factor of production. Economics says we need land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. Without entrepreneur, the other factors are not they're not viable. So I think when we talk about small businesses navigating tough times or tough climbs, the real person to speak to is the entrepreneur. And I feel if the entrepreneur gets it right or stays through the process, just be open to change. Yeah, be open to change. There's a lot of things I really set to talk about today, but I feel like they're really broad. And one of them hits on the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur has to be more self-aware of the environment that we're dealing with. If you're not self-aware, you just keep stumbling on things that are obviously problems. You get my point? And it would wear you out. It would wear you out. So for your question, how can small businesses navigate the issues here? It begins with the entrepreneur. And then the plan, the goal, and then the plan. Then we can talk about marketing and talk about whatever forms of complementary services will take you from point A to point B. I feel like that's very good. And when changes occur, whether economically, socially, or whatever, we still come back to the same basics, the entrepreneur, the goal, right? And the other services that can move them from point A to point B. Okay. Yeah. It's the same thing big businesses do. Yeah.
If you have to give advice to farmers, basically, because right now we have a lot of challenge. We've talked about food inflation, and food inflation is a serious issue currently in Nigeria because of food insecurity. So if you have to talk to the farmers and you have to say a word or two to them to strategize for 2022, what will it be?
That's a tough one. Because farmers are, I don't know, they're in a very tough position now. I mean, in this country.
Very, very tough. Some of them lost their, there was a video production that I saw of someone who was going through just doing a documentary, and some of them lost their poultry farms, pig farms, due to
banditry.
Even outside of insecurity, there's also climate change that has affected big time, we are farmers, and I know how, this rain, has affected production.
Unpredictable.
So it's actually big. It's a big conversation to have. I don't even know how you're going to start to answer this question.
I feel like
what they can control, based on what they can control.
Based on what they can control.
Yes.
I feel like farmers, in spite of the impossible, well, I said the tough challenge. I don't want to use the word
tough business terrain.
Tough business terrains that they're in, that they're currently operating in. I feel like it still presents opportunities in its own way.
Absolutely.
Because for the entrepreneur, every problem is an opportunity.
Exactly.
So, for example, you can't farm corn, maize, or you can't rear your animals, which makes it feel like you're flawed, you're done for, right? How about? Okay, you can't do, but the thing is, you can't do it. You can't not do that all over the country. There's still somewhere it can be done, right? So it's going to now require you being either the person who relocates that, relocates the opportunity from where it can be done to where it can be done. That's one way to think about it. Another is you can move from being a producer to becoming a processing person. So instead of being a person who...
You can just stick the value chain and find somewhere to plug and play.
Plug and play from there.
I was going to ask the biggest challenge, because we've run out of time. Okay. We need like 2 minutes to go. Startups. You've worked with startups. What has been the biggest challenge for you when you deal with startups and, trying to get them to understand the importance of putting a marketing strategy in their business?
Quite a number of challenges, especially depending on the kind or the founder you're talking to. Some founders feel like they're the marketing people themselves. And so they bring a marketing person to execute because they have an idea, right? But you have to be patient with founders because they're very, tough people founders are very tough people, stubborn,
passionate.
and yeah, very dogged.
Don't call us tough, we are passionate.
Yeah, so I feel like the thing is most of them already think they have an idea about how to move their business, but we just have to be more patient and educate founders also on what their role is. The role of a founder actually is not marketing. It's not any one particular thing. It's your ability to ensure that all the moving pieces of your business is intact. Your job is not to do any of those things. It's to get the right people in those positions. Marketing is one of them, right? There's finance, there's operations, there's all of this. Your job is to oversee and ensure everything is moving well, so the machine, everything is going well and it operates optimally. So my job now is more to be more patient with founders, and to ensure that they see this picture and how I fit to ensure that the whole system runs.
Okay, I think on that note, we're going to wrap up the conversation. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. We've had a fantastic conversation. Thank you, Inamai. Thank you, Isia, for the light.
Thank you.
All right, before we go, do ensure you follow us on Instagram. It's at PlusTvAfrica. We started our giveaway. It's currently running. We have 2 giveaways currently running. I don't know if they have the pictures. We're giving out 5 weeks to people that are watching. It's for viewers. Some people have been trying to hijack this week. They know themselves. They are on this chair.
There are viewers all over the world.
The week is only for our viewers, so our giveaway has started. So ensure that you're watching and you're following the conversation. Do have to follow us now at PlusTvAfrica. So we have 5 weeks to give out, and we also have a $2,500 scholarship mentorship program for 10 businesses, right? So do well to grab some of the goodies and follow us on Instagram. You would see it. It's all on there. All right, so if you missed today's quote, here it is again. It's not what you sell that matters as much as how you sell it. It's very important. So I think we'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.